Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MP. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
This week we have the results from the second biggest WWE show of the year, SummerSlam 2023. We have 9 matches. We're going to start at the first match of the night, and we're going to just roll our way through all of it. So let's start off Logan Paul, Ricochet, 18 minutes. These two went to war.
Yeah, it was pretty much what you expect. Highlighting both of them. But in the end, there was no way Ricochet was beating Logan Paul. There was not even a Ziggler's chance of it happening.
There was a bit of a hope in me, but I think you're right. You know, Logan Paul, big star, been building up. I think we said last week, you know, one of these two have challenged for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, and the other has been mostly irrelevant. But I think Ricochet was a good opponent for Logan, and put on a good match, and I think Paul's off to go to a boxing match now, so he might be away for a little bit, training up for that one, or shock us all and do them simultaneously.
Yeah, I think he'll be gone for a little while. I don't think we really need Logan Paul probably until about Survivor Series. So, yeah, let him go do that. As long as he doesn't get seriously hurt, it's not really going to affect anything I think WWE has planned.
He's one of those guys who's going to come and go. Come here, do a story, pop off, come back, do a story, pop off, and just sort of roll around. And his story was, you know, building up with Ricochet, and there's the blow off, and we'll see him back when we see him back. The second match, Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar, 17 and a half minutes, also went to war in the rubber match of their feud.
Yeah, it's everything it needed to be, and then some. Cody comes out of it as a massive, more important star, and now looks like somebody who could legitimately dethrone Roman if necessary. But I think the most important thing, though, was the handshake at the end of the match.
Yeah, Brock Lesnar doesn't often do stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy that specifically said, I don't want to work with this guy, so they changed the title so that he could work with that guy, with somebody he actually wanted to work with. Poor Jinder, he got hindered by Brock. And it is what it is. I think Brock's having fun being a face, and I do think he's ready to ride off into the sunset after WrestleMania. I think we get one more big match out of Brock Lesnar, and then he says goodbye until eventually inducted in the Hall of Fame. And then he says goodbye pretty much probably forever. Because I don't see Brock being one of those Hall of Famers that still does matches and stuff. I think once he decides, I'm done, it will be, I'm done.
Yeah, Brock Lesnar does give off those vibes, right? We've thought he's been done so many times, and then he keeps coming back and doing a story or coming in where he's needed. And hey, yeah, maybe this run up to WrestleMania will be his last. Maybe he'll stick around for another 10 years. I think the only person that knows that is Brock Lesnar. And not even current Brock Lesnar. You know, you got to ask him in a year if he still wants to go, or even in 6 months. I think as long as he's having fun, he'll be around for a little bit. But yeah. Once that itch isn't being scratched, I think he's, as you say, back to the ranch and living a happy life with his millions and millions of dollars.
Yep. And Sable.
And
Can't
Sable.
Forget Sable.
I think for Cody Rhodes off of this, as you say, like everything that has been done since his return has just been to build him up, you know. He beats Seth Rollins a bunch. He does take the loss to Roman Reigns, but then he beats Brock Lesnar in their best of 3. I could still see there being a couple more stall feuds, but the writing on the wall for Cody Rhodes v Roman Reigns 2 is pretty bold, possibly even italicized.
Yeah, I think I would do a surprise thing. I would do not at WrestleMania where everybody expects it to happen. Do it at the Royal Rumble.
Okay.
Have Cody win. Not only does that get the title off of Roman before WrestleMania, that also opens up several doors for the bloodline that may not be open right now, or we don't want opened because of the title.
True. Cody, yeah, it's the hard part, right? Because you're like, if the plan is Rhodes Reigns 2, then nothing is gonna happen with Roman Reigns and that undisputed Universal Championship until Rhodes takes it. Or at the very least until Rhodes challenges for it again. Touch wood. And so if we get that done sooner, Rumble, in January or WrestleMania, April, wherever, it just frees it up. It takes away this sort of limiting factor on some of the storylines.
Yeah. I mean, it will also give the opportunity for the Rumble winner to challenge for both titles.
Yeah.
Whereas if Roman's the champion going into WrestleMania, you're pretty sure the Rumble winner is not picking him because that's Cody's story.
Yeah.
Plus, if we do it like just randomly do the match at the Rumble, that solves one of the big issues of trying to get everything situated together. How the heck do you even put the match on with them on different shows?
Well, just ask the winner of the Slim Jim SummerSlam Battle Royal. That's my segue. Competitors included in the order of elimination: Apollo Crews, JD McDonough, Rick Boogs, Otis, Ivar, Eric, Shinsuke Nakamura, Tommaso Ciampa, Cameron Grimes, Austin Theory, Santos Escobar, Giovanni Vinci, Ludwig Kaiser, Ridge Holland, Butch, Matt Riddle, Omos, The Miz, Grayson Waller, Karrion Kross, Chad Gable, Bronson Reed, AJ Styles, Sheamus, and eventual winner LA Knight, who has gone on to show up on Raw.
Yeah, I do know that there are reports that they are working maybe on ending the brand split.
We just started it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, you could just have people showing up on different shows. LA Knight is definitely the right choice for this match. It was a meaningless battle royal. There was no point in putting him under anybody in this match. And there were some great names that you were rattled off there in that list.
Mm-hmm.
But this was made for LA Knight. Also, I think LA Knight would be a perfect new spokesman for Slim Jim.
Yeah, compared to Macho Man.
Yeah, think about it. You had the Macho Man, which was probably the greatest wrestling commercial actor ever, simply because just how over the top he was. Imagine the videos that they used to do with him, but replace him with LA Knight saying "yeah" at the same time he's staffing it. It works.
Yeah, it'd be because it was interesting, right? Because they went to the Slim Jim ad at some point during the show. I think it was after the match. The LA Knight was in it, and they still cut straight from that into the older footage of Randy Savage, and yeah. I think LA Knight is one of those guys who, if you invest in, he can fill, people keep saying the Rock role or the Austin role. Not necessarily in terms of popularity, but just in terms of role filling. But why not? That sort of macho man off the wall. Like, people hold him up to such a high regard, and then you just go back and watch things like Cream of the Crop promo, and he's just going off the walls, and it was fun to watch. It was a great character, and everyone enjoyed it.
There is one thing, though. There was something involved that made him off the wall that LA Knight can't do.
That's true.
Because of the wellness policy. So that is something that has to be said. But I think LA Knight would be a fantastic person for that role. and it would keep his name in the limelight. He would still be rising up because not only does he have this sponsorship, but he's starting to win more and more matches, getting higher in the card, and it could eventually lead to the promised land that people think should already be at. Whereas by doing it that way, it becomes natural, and the masses, the casuals, accept it, not just the hardliners.
Yeah,
I think
it's a
the
hard
next
one.
step is the U.S. title.
We keep saying it. They just got to do it.
Yeah.
Because, we said US title. It looked like you could do it, right? It's not like Austin Theory was doing anything. It's not like he's been doing anything for a little while. Perfect time. Slot in your guy who's hot. But at the moment, we are dealing with The Miz over on Raw, and that's going to be at least a little bit of a stopgap for a couple of weeks, probably a month. But yeah, just strap him as soon as possible with that. Mainly because we're not really doing anything with Austin Theory, so it doesn't harm anybody to make that title change.
I think Escobar is going to be challenging him in the next week or so. So you can still do it at Payback then.
Yeah.
Unless I'm mistaken by something that I don't realize.
No, I think that is the case.
But yeah, once you get past that match, because after all, Santos Escobar showed up on NXT, so what are the odds that he actually wins the U.S. title? Are pretty low. So yeah, you have him deal with that, and then make LA Knight come out and stake his claim to the title. Then at Payback, we get a match, and LA Knight goes over.
Easy peasy. Last match before our entrance theme of the week, Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey, they had an MMA rules match, and after 7.5 minutes, Baszler made Ronda pass out.
It was what it was. You couldn't I guess you couldn't really have a legitimate match from them, and in a way, this was Ronda putting Baszler over.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. I don't really know. With Baszler winning this match, is there going to be another match between them eventually? A legitimate match? Possibly, at some point. But otherwise, you really have to do something with Shayna Baszler. The problem is she's on the same roster as Rhea Ripley, and that's means she can't challenge for that title as long as Rhea Ripley is champion.
Yeah, it's Ripley's kind of got a bit of a stranglehold on that one, but you're seeing tweets from Ronda after this about how she's got nothing left. It did seem like there were already rumors about her contract coming up after SummerSlam, her not wanting to continue through. It does just seem like, put the buddy over on the way out, make Shayna look that much stronger. It wasn't a tap out, but it was as close as you can get. And Raquel already has first dibs on Rhea, but maybe Shayna's got second dibs. I don't know.
Since we are in an era where we could possibly jump brands, there is a potential option that you probably won't like that we'll talk about later once we get to the women's championship situation.
Which we will do on the other side of our entrance theme, which this week is going to be none other than Bianca Belair. I'm on my own. I never needed you at all. And you're back at Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. We'll just jump. We'll talk about it. Triple threat match for the WWE Women's Championship. It was Charlotte versus Bianca versus Asuka. Longest non-main event match of the night. Bianca comes out on top, holds it for about a minute before she gets cashed in on, and we got ourselves a second new women's champion.
Yeah. They made it very obvious with the injury what was going to happen very soon once Bianca was being medically taken away from the ring and then hobbled her way back into the ring. that they were setting up the cash in.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredibly obvious. I know we said last week, if Charlotte Flair wins, Iyo Sky is champion immediately. We should have said, if Bianca also wins, that results in Iyo Sky becoming champion. And I think it's very interesting that Bayley was very supportive of it. And then you had the big celebration of Damage CTRL after the cash in and the win.
Yeah.
So I still think Iyo Sky versus Asuka is the first feud that you do, maybe after Bianca gets her rematch. But I do think that's a big feud that you can do at Payback or something, and then we'll have to see where Damage CTRL goes after that. Is it an act by Bayley, and she's secretly jealous? Because 90% of women's storylines always result in one person being jealous of another person. But then after that, who becomes Io's next opponent? And that's where I'm going to disappoint you.
Don't do it.
It could end up being Shayna Baszler.
Oh, straight to the heart.
Especially since she broke Io's arm in NXT. So
they do have a whole lot of history to build off of.
Yes. I don't know. It's just interesting. It's to see that they gone here, and so much for my prediction about the men's briefcase being used first.
Yeah, kind of sad. Just because, we were hoping, beyond hoping, that the women's lasted a little bit longer. It did definitely last longer than it has in the past, but, it
well, 2 months is a win.
Yeah, we take it. I think the most interesting aspect to this, as you said, not to harbour on this for too long, is Damage CTRL all being together, Dakota Kai flying out last minute to join them in that celebration. And yeah, the storyline, I guess, is going to burn a little bit slower with regards to Damage CTRL, possibly wait for Kai to come back from injury. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. No shortage of competitors for Sky. Love seeing her with the belt. Hope that she'll hold on to the belt for a little while. I won't get into my iffiness around the triple threat match itself. But I'm interested to see if this does trigger a character change for Bianca that we've been craving the last few months. Yeah. Maybe this is the catalyst that we require.
I was on board with that, but I think I'm going to step back. Because of what I've seen over the weekend, especially, I think they see Bianca as the John Cena of the women's division. And by that I mean not only a top star, but a person they can send out to do radio shows, television shows, commercials. She was part of that Slim Jim commercial that you talked about. And she is basically this generation's like Trish or Lita for many, many women and girls that are growing up wanting to become wrestlers.
Yeah.
So I could see them pushing back on it. I could see them not going with it. But I'm fine because obviously they didn't want Iyo to pin directly Asuka here. So I'm fine with them switching it just to switch it onto Iyo so that we eventually get a proper match between them without having to use the briefcase to get that proper match.
Alrighty, running out of time, so I'll put the pedal to the metal. Gunther, Sheamus, Intercontinental Championship on the line. The reign is still alive.
Yep, less than 30 days now.
Counting down. We need to get that countdown to the well, I think Santino did it, right? The honky tonk countdown.
Yeah. That was a bad omen because I think he immediately lost after it showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great match. I still feel like there's maybe more that these two can do, which is crazy to think about. But these two brought it. Gunther still looks amazing. And in the end, I think he's going to be considered one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time. Just because of the names he's beaten in this reign.
Yeah. It was called the Honker Meter. Because, of course, it was. Then we got the World Heavyweight Championship on the line. Seth Rollins, Finn Balor. The story with the Judgment Day continues.
Yeah, you had Seth wearing a vest from 7 years ago. You had Finn wearing a paint on his arm that said 7. But for me, the biggest visual, the biggest thing from this entire match was Damian Priest giving Finn Balor a disappointed dad look.
Yeah.
That's all that said at the end of that match was how disappointed he was in Finn. So it was what it was. It was a good match. It was expected to be a good match. It told more story for the Judgment Day, and ultimately Finn's paranoia got the best of him.
Yeah, we had Damian Priest offering up the briefcase.
It was so he could use it as a weapon.
And then Finn's just so confused or conflicted around it, and then he's like, why is this briefcase near my match? Which, to be fair, when there's someone holding the Money in the Bank briefcase, that could be at any time.
Yeah. He definitely tried to help Finn win the title. Whether the argument can be made that was because he thought he could beat Finn easier than Seth, that's really conjecture, but which is probably what was going through Finn Balor's mind, to be honest. But in the end, Seth got his win back from 7 years ago, and Finn and the Judgment Day are moving on to other things, potentially the Tag Team Champion / Cody Rhodes, potentially bringing in a new member, potentially, and spawning off a new foe for Rollins, being the newly minted heel Nakamura.
Yeah, a whole lot happening in that division, and I'd love to discuss it more, but as it is, we're already going to have to rush our Tribal Combat discussion. 36 minutes, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso. I've used the phrase a couple times already, but this truly was a war. Throwing the Tribal Combat rules out the window. We had a Jimmy Uso interference, we had a Solo Sikoa interference, and ultimately we end ourselves with Roman Reigns standing on top with his title and the brothers facing off against each other.
A very confused Roman Reigns, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fantastic story. It was not the match of the night in terms of what match itself, but the story made up for it. And as I predicted, there was a moment where you thought it might actually happen.
Yeah.
And that was the moment right before Jey Uso popped out. Or Jimmy Uso popped out. And cost Jey the title. I think this is going to be a very interesting way to see how it plays out. I know Jey is going to want to get his hands on Jimmy, but I've heard they may be wanting to do that match at WrestleMania, so they may put it off in some way. Maybe have it be shades of Kane and Undertaker, where for the longest time you knew the match was going to happen, but Taker just did not want the match. He did not want to fight his brother, and have that maybe be part of the overarching storyline, along with an injury or two that sidelines Jey, so that it prolongs the story naturally. But eventually leading to Jey just snapping and go, fine, WrestleMania. That's where we'll do this. And obviously Jimmy was very, very, very jealous of Jey. He admitted it in a previous promo, and it was heavily implied throughout the entire storyline. And it's obviously because, why did Jey get the title match? after the tag team match. Why didn't Jimmy get a title match? Why didn't Jimmy get a title match? Why has Jimmy never gotten a title match?
It's main event
When
Jay, not main event Jimmy.
Yeah. When Jay's gotten 3 title matches.
Which he lost all of them because of Jimmy.
Yeah. In fact, I don't think Jimmy has ever challenged for a singles title at all in his entire career.
I don't have time to check the stats, so I'll just believe it.
So I think that will be the basis of why Jimmy did it. And it's just just another layer to that onion that is the Bloodline storyline.
Alrighty, well, we are all out of time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Bye, B.
You visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D Upper, our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D Upper, our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling R&D Up, and we will see you next week.